I'd like to welcome Terry Roberts. She is from WhiteHawk. I'm going to leave it to you, Terry, to introduce yourself, a little bit about WhiteHawk and why you're interested in joining this podcast.
Wendy, great to be with you. So I'm the founder, president, and CEO of WhiteHawk Limited. And I am here with you because I'm excited to be able to talk about the things that I've done and the mistakes that I've made and what I have learned as a global risk, cyber intelligence, and national security professional who has worked in the Navy, in the U.S. intelligence community, and at Carnegie Mellon University, in industry, and then with my own company for the last decade.
So Terry, before we actually get into some of the stories, what intrigued me about you is that you've got a very direct personality, a very focused mind, and when I first met you, I thought this is a lady who's got it all together. So if you don't mind taking us back, to where did it all start?
Sure. So I've always had sort of an axiom that everybody focuses on their inbox, right? What is coming at them, and trying to manage that efficiently. But I have always been, and I mean from the very beginning, since I was in my early 20s, been about optimizing so that I could manage my inbox with 2/3 of my time, and then I could take 1/3 of my time to make a lasting difference on wherever I am, right? So whether it was that I was a squadron intelligence officer, I focused on bringing in new capabilities to the aircraft and proving those capabilities. And then when I was, more senior and I was running a large scientific and technical organization, it was about how can we take what these amazing scientists and engineers are doing to the next level to communicate effectively. And so we brought in new technologies, new capabilities to drive, right, delivery. And again, at each position that I've had, it's how do I make a lasting imprint on this company or this organization so that they're in a much better position than when I started.
When you were making choices about your career, how did you decide which was the right path?
Had amazing parents. My mother was a working mother, even though she was a mother of 4, and that was unusual back then. And she always followed her passions, and my father, the same thing. He had a career in naval intelligence, and I noticed that both of them loved what they were doing. And so a driving force with me was the combination of what are you good at, right? And then what are you passionate about? And going in that direction. So I followed my father's career in naval intelligence. And the deal that I made with myself was as long as I was having fun, I would stay in. So I didn't think I was going to stay in for, years. But they kept giving me amazing jobs. So I kept going from one amazing job to the other. But then I got to a point where I felt sort of topped out, right? And so then I pivoted.
Before we go into pivoting, and I want to go back to something that you just called out, that you were getting opportunities. So one of the things that attracts people to this particular podcast is I like to focus on some of the things that people are afraid to talk about, which is when you see an opportunity and there's fear to pursue it. Or you know that you want to do something, but you're afraid to raise your hand. So when you were given those opportunities, how did they present themselves? Was a job that was advertised internally? Did somebody just reach out to you? How did you even get on somebody's radar? So you were putting yourself in front of an opportunity.
Yeah. So I do think it starts with excellence. You have to, do your best in every job that you're in, get that reputation, right? That you are someone who delivers, that you're positive, that you're capable. And then through that, right, you establish a reputation with people senior to you.
Mhm.
And I think you always make it clear in your conversations that you're always looking for that next opportunity. You see what I'm saying? Making sure people know that you're open
Mhm.
to conversations. And one of them that was presented to me, I remember I didn't want. I was supposed to go to a job that was like the coolest job and that I wanted to do, and I was going to work for someone that I really loved. And out of nowhere, the senior guy comes to me and says, I want you to do this. And I was like, really? And you know what was cool? It turned out to be one of the best jobs I've ever had. And it was my first cyber focus job. So it changed my life. But originally, I didn't want to go.
Mm. The interesting thing about that is I had a chat to a person who is also going to be on the podcast, and he talked about that sometimes when you put things out into the universe, there are signals, and perhaps that was one of the signals that you thought you wanted something, but the universe was presenting a different opportunity. So the lesson is sometimes you have to tap into that and see where it takes you. Yeah.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
so you got your first cyber job that took you into, I guess, on a new path. It
Mhm.
created a new path for you. What were some of the challenges that you were presented with? Did you need to re-educate yourself? Did
Yes.
you need to work with a different set of people?
Yes.
Talk us through some of those
Yes.
challenges that you faced.
So I had always been more technical capability focused, but I don't have a deep technical background. So in my master's program, I had taken some AI courses and some technical courses, but I don't have the deep technical education. But I was always technically aware and technically interested, right?
Mhm.
And so they put me in charge of a large scientific and technical organization with 500 scientists and engineers.
Wow, that's intimidating.
Luckily, my deputy, had that background, but also knew how to work with me, right? And so together, we were able to reevaluate the organization, how they were currently doing business, um, and what we thought wasn't um, reaching the mark, right? And so working with him, we literally redesigned how things were going to be not created, but delivered. And how we could bring in next generation technologies to advance that work. But it was the other thing I did was I talked to every scientist and engineer. I think it's very important when you go into a new organization that you have 20-minute one-on-one in calls with all of your people, no
Mhm.
matter how long it takes, right? So that you truly understand each of your personnel, what what their background is, what their passions are, so that you can help to optimize the organization and connect to them.
Mhm.
The other thing we did that never existed before was we set up monthly happy hours at a nearby golf course, on like a Friday afternoon. And scientists and engineers don't always like to socialize. So sometimes you need a little bit of a forcing function, but that also got us, you know what I mean, to kind of know each other in a different way and take the organization in a slightly different direction.
I'm interested to understand, like, what were some of the true battles that you were confronted with?
Well, convincing my boss that bringing in the new technologies, okay? So for instance, we were doing classified work, which made collaboration difficult, but there were new technologies, net meeting, that would allow us to have a collaborative environment. And my boss was old school. Like, why do you need that? Right?
Yeah.
The other thing we started to do was XML tagging of data so that we could bring reporting together in an automated fashion. He didn't understand that either. So I had to sort of build um, partnerships across the management team to then go to our boss to explain it. So it wasn't Terry asking for it.
Hmm.
It was the management team asking for it together.
Hmm.
So I think if your boss is not behind what you're doing, you're not going to get very far, right? And so I think sometimes people hit that roadblock and they think of ways to work around them
Yeah.
instead of co-opting them and
Mm-hmm.
making the success that occurs theirs.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And so did that work?
It did.
It
So
did?
we ended up setting up a collaborative environment on cyber
Mhm.
across 400 analysts and 16 agencies.
Yeah. So Terry, let's change directions a little bit because you've obviously had a really good starting point in your career. You had some good mentors and good and people that you looked up to. Um, so fast forward, much further down the track, now you lead WhiteHawk. How did that come about? And then what were some of the challenges that you were confronted with?
So I was running a large cyber portfolio for a US defense industrial base company. And I loved the work. I loved most of the team, but we were owned by VCs. And so I knew that our time was running short, that we were going to be sold, right?
Mhm.
That's the path. You're owned 3 to 5 years, and then a merger, right, is arranged. And I was actually on the merger and acquisition team. And I'm out at a cyber conference, the largest in the US, called RSA in San Francisco. And there was a dramatic difference between 2013 and 2014. The audience doubled, like from 15,000 to almost 30,000. The number of companies, cybersecurity companies in the expo doubled from like 350 to 550.
Was that the industry? Was that
That
because
was
the
the industry.
industry?
So it was mostly because there had been a few events, the first major events that had hit companies that had started to have an impact is what I believe was going on. But as I went around to all of the companies, I found out that they were all targeting the Fortune 1000 to sell to the Fortune 1000. So no one was focused on the mid-tier to the small businesses. And with my cyber intelligence and AI background, and risk background, I thought if we could create a platform using open data sets that could create risk assessments and action plans for any company or organization in the world, then you could basically, without getting corny, democratize access
Mhm.
to resilience. And could I do that? So I just started, architecting, what would be required. I started at a high level putting a business plan together. So I'm still working, right? Full time. So I did this, on the side for about a year. And then when we did get bought, then I decided that it was now or never and started the company out of my kitchen.
Mm. So there are a lot of people who have the desire to do exactly what you did. So throughout that year, did you did mention earlier that you were technically aware and technically curious, but not technically
Deep.
technically deep. So did you have to, or did you partner with somebody
Yes.
else? How did you find that
Yes.
person? How did you find
Yes.
somebody that said, I have the same vision. I'm on the same path as you, and I want to help. I want to be part of
Right.
this.
So again, the company where I was very good and had incredible talent. And so one of our solution technical designers, I went to him and I said, this is my idea. And we started brainstorming on the technical piece of it. And then I went to another friend who was a commercial CFO. And I do have a budget background also, but I knew that this was out of my league, right? That I would need help. And so then he came over on Thursday nights and I would pay him in vodka and we started putting the business plan together. And then I have a sister who is brilliant in information retrieval and research and everything. And we went away for a beach vacation, just the two of us, for a week. And literally, she's at one end of the table with her laptop, and I'm at the other end of the table with my laptop. And we're going back and forth and doing research. So, and then once I had, sort of the approach and the business plan together, I vetted it with probably 50 friends, peers, professional friends to tweak it to, does this make sense? So a
Mm.
lot of vetting.
So how much tweaking did you do? And was this other person that was partnering with you? Did you have an arrangement? Did you have a contract in place, or was it a handshake agreement? Let's help each other out.
Yeah, it was more of a handshake until I incorporated and then I made him the co-founder.
Oh, that's incredible. So looking back and thinking about listeners who might be thinking about doing what you've done, like building their own company, what advice would you give? Like, what would you repeat? And what
Yeah,
would you say that was a waste of time? Like, don't bother doing that because I overthought that.
right. So first of all, you really do need a unique idea that you believe has a market, right?
Mhm.
And that the idea is executable, either that you can create it, the product, or you can hone the service, right? It's achievable, okay? And then the next thing is at least elementary market research
Mhm.
on, right? Is there a market for this? Okay. Those are the basic combinations. Amazing idea, potentially a gap in the market, right? And and the ability to create it. Okay. And then can you prove out that there's a market that they'll actually buy it?
Mhm.
Okay. And obviously you have to have some kind of financial stability, right? So either that you're doing this part-time on the side, right? While you're working full-time until you have seed funding, or you have the first few clients, right? You've got to work that financial transition so that you don't put your personal finances at risk.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the fear that holds many people back. They're afraid, or they're not able to. They have some really great ideas. And thinking about the person who's your co-founder who you partnered with, um, it's actually probably, I'm imagining it's probably challenging to find somebody who's also sitting in the same position or in similar shoes where they're able to take a financial risk that they don't have a huge amount of debt or responsibility that allows them to take some risks.
Right. We did it part-time for a long time, for that reason. And so it really wasn't until we started having some initial clients, right? And we're having the seed funding conversations that we did that. And he always had a couple of things going on the side. Do you know what I mean? I was fortunate that I had my military retirement, which isn't a lot, but it was something that I could count on.
I've had the privilege of working with you and WhiteHawk most recently. So where to from here?
Yeah. So I feel like everything that I've been doing the past 20 years has led to the capabilities that the company currently has using publicly available data and AI analytics to be able to scale automated risk assessments and action plans. And also that the platform has been honed so that we can train interns on the platform in a 360 way across cyber compliance, risk, threat, maturity, action plans. So we're there. Then it's about where we want to apply these amazing capabilities. And while we've been doing supply chains and critical infrastructure, we've recently proven an approach that combines working with universities who have cyber programs, providing them experiential internships through a white labeled platform, allowing them to select companies and organizations that they want to service, that they want to provide help to, who will never have the resources to be cyber sophisticated. And then the ability for the universities to use that data for research. So we're calling this the National Cyber Resilience Moonshot. And the beauty is it can be Australia, it can be the US, it can be a state, it can be a city, it can be a region. But we're really excited that our capabilities make this accessible and cost effective for everybody.
How did the moonshot come about?
So obviously, without the company and the team who have created the platform and continue to advance the platform, none of this would be possible. And then it was working. I'm on the board of Cyber Florida, which is an amazing nonprofit that works across all the universities in the Florida system. And so we worked with some of those universities and their feedback, do you know what I mean, was so powerful that it was like, it's not, it's not my idea. They're basically saying this is a great way to scale internships and capacity and state and local servicing. So their feedback really made all the difference to me thinking, okay, I think this is doable. I think this is reasonable. And then again, Sue Kim, our COO, is just the most amazing solution architect and software engineer and operations manager. And she by my side with the rest of the team, right? I know they can deliver.
Again, you're just so intriguing, Terry, and I really just love the direction that you've taken, not just your own career, but the company. So congratulations on the success, and I can see such huge amount of future success coming your way. So look, so just to wrap up in terms of going back to the original topic around ambition in disguise, there are people who are really ambitious, but they're hidden behind closed doors. What advice would you give
Mhm.
to the people who they've got the capability, they've got the
Yes.
networks, but they just don't know how to get lift off? What
Yeah.
advice would you give?
Well, I think first of all, I believe in self-confidence. Self-confidence is knowing where you're strong, knowing your weaknesses, and surrounding yourself with people who compensate for your weaknesses. Okay. Versus ego, right? And ambition, I think of it differently. It's you need to get to positions of authority, right, in order to have an impact, a greater impact. Anyone can have an impact wherever they are, right? Whatever level. But it's that the realization in my mind that unless I was at a certain level of seniority, right, I wasn't going to be able to have the same impact. And so I was driven by the right positions, right?
Mm.
So that I could get things done in areas that I was passionate about. So, as opposed to personal ambition, which is I just want to get to that position because then I'm in that position.
Yeah, that's actually a
No.
really interesting, it's a really interesting lens. And if I put myself into the shoes of the example you just provided, when I was younger, earlier in career, I would chase money and business titles.
Yes.
And I did actually I didn't realize I realized it until now that you've pointed it out. What's more important is that you have authority and you have accountability and responsibility, because that drives influence. And then it's how you use that to drive influence in the right direction.
100%. You
Mm,
got it.
yeah. So awesome. So look, Terry, thank you so much. I hope you've enjoyed your week in Australia. I think you're midway through your trip. Is that
Two
correct?
weeks. Two
Two
weeks in
weeks.
Australia.
Yeah. So well, you're
Yes.
midway through. So from
Yes.
here,
Yes.
you head
Yes.
over to Victoria. You've had some time
Yes.
in Sydney, now in Perth. So thank you so much for
Yes.
visiting our wonderful country. And
Well.
I hope the rain stops.
Well, as I always say, I haven't met an Australian I don't like or that I don't want to work with. It's always a pleasure.
Well, it's great that we have a good reputation. We certainly haven't burnt any bridges. So look, thank you, Terry, and good luck with your continued success.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Wendy.
Okay, bye.